Notifications went out. Yeah. All right, y'all. Giving you all time to get your watch party started and everything. One night you're in the building. Special guest in the house. Let me get my watch party started. Yep, big shout out to Sherry. She's in the building. Hey. Yep. Brother Cope. Yeah, I'm alive with the mics. Getting it started. Stan Moss, you in the building?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Special guest to you in the building.
Can't hear you.
Y'all can't hear me?
I hear Stan. You hear Stan?
No.
Do you hear yourself?
No.
Do you hear music?
Yeah.
But you don't hear yourself.
No.
That is crazy.
Can y'all hear yourself?
No, I hear me.
You hear yourself?
I hear you. I hear everybody.
I just hear music. I don't hear anyone.
You don't hear no music?
I hear only music. No
Oh,
one
yeah.
else, no.
How about now? You hear yourself now?
No.
No. No.
Really?
Yeah.
What's going on?
That's some headphone business.
You want to come over here?
Okay.
You good? Y'all
Okay.
good?
Better.
Everybody good? Okay.
I don't hear myself though.
No, I
Okay.
dropped out.
Yeah.
You want to come over here?
I gotta change the jacks.
1, 2. Yeah, it's in and out.
Yeah, I gotta change the jacks.
Change the jack.
Okay.
Okay, now I can hear myself. What
You
about
good?
you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Can we
Can you hear yourself?
There we
Yeah,
go.
good.
Okay, we good. We good. Okay.
There we
All
go.
right, nobody moves.
Nobody move, nobody get hurt. Nobody
gets-
move, nobody get hurt.
Yeah.
Nobody move, nobody mic is cut off. I'm just saying.
Here we go.
Yes, indeed. So we giving you time to get your watch party started. I just started my watch party.
Share, share, share.
Right?
One night you're in the house.
That's right, baby.
The building.
And you know what?
We ready.
Are we ready, y'all?
Yes,
All right,
yes.
So you know what? I'm gonna drop it out like this. One night is in the house.
All
Yes,
right.
sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So, man, okay. We got a lot going on. This was a big week for a lot of things that happened.
Yes, it was.
First of all, congratulations to Kamala Harris. She's the VP.
Yes, yes.
You know,
yes,
so give her that. Give her that.
Nominated, yes.
You know what I'm saying? That's it. You know, fool Trump trying to figure out that she's not a, a human being. You know, like
Yeah.
he's-
He picked
You know,
her,
he's
yeah.
Going back to this
with the
birth
silly
nonsense.
stuff. Yeah, with all
right
that
off the
stuff.
top.
Old tricks.
Yeah, come on. That's
Old
all.
tricks, people. That's what we got
Oh,
going
yeah.
on.
Birtherism, yeah.
We did well, first of all, I want to ask you, Saundrea Coleman, what has your week been like? What you been doing?
Oh, goodness. Hi, y'all. Once again, Saundrea Coleman,
The activist.
one of the co-founders of the Holmes Isaacs Coalition. I'm also an organizer with the Upper East Side Black Lives Matter movement, UES number 4, BLM. We've just been busy, doing a lot of work out there, getting some things ready for, we're having a book bag giveaway at the coalition, for the Holmes Isaac Coalition, children over there in that community. So near the end of the month, that Saturday, the last Saturday. So we're getting all of that together and just lining up speakers for the visual. We have a dynamic lady coming in tonight, and just still doing the community work, checking on residents, connecting them with elected officials when they're having issues and stuff like that. So just having the boots on the ground, that's like my day-to-day. And preparing for a graduation on Thursday.
Who's
Oh,
graduating?
who's graduating?
I am.
Oh, okay.
You gotta give it up for Saundrea Coleman. All right,
You're
hold
gonna
on.
beat.
Now,
You're gonna beat.
what are you graduating for?
I'm going to graduate my master's in divinity from Niagara
Now she gets to be.
That's big.
Seminary.
That's big.
Saundrea Coleman.
Yes, that's big. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and then we're actually having something get together at the park on 86th Street. East End called Schutz Park. We're going to celebrate one of the organizers' birthday, Patrick, on Friday, and my graduation. So it's going to be a gathering. So 6 or 7, we'll figure all of that out. Yeah.
I'll be there for that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll be
So
there.
and just the nice same old, same old.
All right, Big Stan, what's going on this week, baby?
It's been a very interesting week. I announced that I'm running for Queens Borough President. To all my
Right.
Brooklyn guys, big shout out to you guys. But Queens Borough President. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind since making that announcement. A lot of folks are calling and reaching out and trying to figure out how we could really do this. And I like the fact that it's giving hope to some people, especially in NYCHA, who feel like, we can't get to these politicians. We can't get nothing done. So now hopefully they see in myself somebody that is reachable and concerned and definitely for their cause and really going to amplify their issues to the point where we're going to, can't be ignored. So I'm excited about that. Gave away food in Queensbridge on Friday as always. So shout out to all the Queensbridge Friday folks who come out and feed folks and all the people that donate food. It was amazing doing that and working directly with residents and seeing them get some of the services they need. And it's just been a really busy week. As y'all all know as organizers, there's so much work to do, more now than ever.
So have you done any shaming this week? I'm always excited about the shaming.
Well, I'll get to the shaming part a little later on. But there's always somebody to call out.
Yeah, and then our special guest today, please introduce yourself to the people. Go.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Come closer to the mic because we want to know you. Go
I
ahead.
am Rebecca Lamort. I am a candidate for New York City Council in Manhattan's 5th District, the Upper East Side, East Harlem, and Roosevelt Island. And I am blessed to be Saundrea Coleman's neighbor and count her as a true friend and ally. So thank you so much for having me on here. I'm really excited.
Don't show.
I got tissue for you. Don't worry about it. Dope. All right. So today's show is about you, right? It's all about you today. And you're going to discuss your platform. Saundrea is going to throw the questions. We're all going to throw questions.
Yeah, all of us.
I want to say that what I'm really happy about is we're starting to see a little bit of a movement in the thing that I want to do. You know what I'm saying? Where I want to get 51 NYCHA residents to actually run for city council or run for assemblyman or any of those things.
Powerful.
Everybody and we support our own candidates, which is the big thing, right? I don't really think that Rebecca or Stan should be starved for money in terms of campaign contributions.
Right.
We have a big enough voting block in NYCHA, right? There's 500,000 people in NYCHA, right? And if each person was to contribute, let's say $1, right? That's
$1.
$500,000.
Yeah.
You know
10,
what I'm
right?
saying?
They need 10, though,
Right
right?
there.
It's 10
Right,
to
but
start, right?
if they did 10,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Then I mean that's 10 times that.
Right.
Right? And with that type of money, we can put anybody we want in office. And the point being, I'm saying, and I keep saying this, I'm tired of asking somebody that's not from our neighborhood, that's not from our situation, for help. It doesn't really make any sense. So you got to have people that are engaged in our fight,
That's
right?
right.
So that we have a voice at the table.
Yeah.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. Power is not given. Power is taken.
That's right.
You take
That's
power.
right.
That's how
That's
it goes down.
Becca can do it.
So if you guys want to keep on asking strangers for help that don't care about you, then you go ahead and let the guy come in with the slick suit on and talk all sweet talk to you and tell him what he's going to do for you. And then when it's all said and done, he does nothing for you. Or let's get our people on the ballots.
That's right.
Let's do that. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to set up funds for you guys, right?
Yes.
That's the deal. We're going to set up funds for you guys so these guys can can contribute to your campaign. We're going to make it right, so that we can do that. And I'm saying that to anybody else that wants to step forward in NYCHA, that you saying you want to run, then we're going to set up ways to donate to your campaign. Same thing like we're doing with Miss Taylor.
That's right. That's right.
With Jocelyn Taylor. Same sort of thing. Just to show that we're supporting our candidates.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
All
cool.
right, that's the
cool.
deal. So, Saundrea, go.
Well, just to be clear, Rebecca's my neighbor, but she doesn't live in public housing.
Yeah.
But she supports us, and
I'll take
she's
that.
a couple of blocks away, not that far. and she's a tough cookie. So, and as Stan as well, he used to live in public housing, but now he doesn't.
Yes.
So, but we want people that's going to be there for us that has our best interest at heart. So, and I've been doing, like I said, a lot of work with Rebecca for about a year now. She does our flyers at
Yes,
that.
yes.
She does
Yeah,
our
yeah,
flyers.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
She hooks them up too.
Yeah.
yeah. So, I just shoot it to Rebecca, like, your thoughts on public housing and as a future your candidate, but going forward when you get into office, what would you like to see for public housing for the residents? You know our problems, so.
First and foremost is funding, which is difficult because that's the mountain that we seem to perpetually be trying to climb. Where's the money going? Where is it coming from? Is there enough? How do we get more of it? Because NYCHA as a whole needs $60 billion worth of work. And in our community, Homes and Isaacs alone needs at least $25 million, and it's most likely more because more disrepair has been able to happen while people are still debating, what do we do? How do we do it? What's the best way to help residents? And so as a council member, the core of my compass in office will always be getting the proper resources to NYCHA, bringing new revenue streams online, being hyper-targeted, being sure that the monies we're allocating are actually going to these repairs, because at a certain point, it's kind of like the MTA. When you're throwing money at a problem, but it's not getting better, where's the money going?
Right.
So now
That's
it
a big
becomes
question.
a follow the money situation to me, where also as council member, I would like to set up an independent outside investigation to look at where has this money been going?
Right.
We see daily news articles about like stoves and computers and
Right.
things for seniors and children that are just never given out to residents. And
Disappearing, yeah.
and that is money that should be, fixing roofs. That is money that should be fixing boilers.
Right.
People shouldn't be dealing with bathrooms and kitchens they can't use and
Exactly.
just uninhabitable conditions. New York City housing landlords, NYCHA being the landlord, the biggest landlord and the biggest slumlord, I'll
Right,
say it.
exactly.
They are not honoring their commitment to residents. You need to keep a habitable domicile, and that is
Right,
not
right.
what they are doing when they allow apartments to fall into such disrepair. So number one, funding. Number two, hyper focus, making sure it's going to the places it's needed. And number three, an outside investigation to figure out where the money actually is. Because
Right.
I promise if we start, turning over some rocks, we're going to
Right.
see some bugs crawl away.
Right,
And we'll
exactly.
know exactly where things have been. And sadly, I'm sure some people took some things they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
But that's why we need an investigation to really know.
Yeah. And you have about four developments, NYCHA
Three.
developments?
So I-
Three? Okay.
Well, technically
Robbins,
four. There's Robbins,
right.
which is a senior center, Homes
Right.
and Isaacs, which share one plot of land. So
Right.
technically two. And then there's Lexington Houses up at the very top of the district on
Okay.
100th Street in East Harlem.
Okay. But since we're separate, so you do have, so
Yes,
you have
you-
about four,
yes,
right? Okay, right. Okay. And talk to us about Roosevelt Island, because a lot of people are not familiar with Roosevelt Island, and that will be what you will be responsible for too. So tell people about that and what's hidden there, or whatever something you want to share and what you plan to do there.
ask a question about that. Roosevelt Island is part of NYCHA.
No.
No, but that's part of her district.
Oh,
She's
okay.
she's gonna serve it.
Yeah.
Got it.
District
Okay.
includes like the eastern part of the Upper East Side. So East End Avenue, York, First, Second, a little bit of Third Ave, a little bit of Lexington. And then across the East River is also Roosevelt Island. And Roosevelt Island is an interesting situation because technically it falls within the council district, but it's under state oversight. They have what's called the Roosevelt Island Operating Committee, REOC, which is a quasi-public-private entity that is governed mostly by the state. So they are my constituents, and all of their issues are under my purview, but still to work on things to affect a lot of their change, I will have to be working with my partners at the state level. And the issues really affecting Roosevelt Island right now, resiliency, during Hurricane Sandy,
Yeah.
the floodwaters came up, just like in our community when Homes and
wow.
Isaacs flooded, and housing. There was so much affordable housing that's aging out of the Mitchell-Lama and other affordable programs, and if the state doesn't step up to protect that, where do those tenants go? If you can't afford to pay market rate, if you can't afford to move even or find other affordable options, because it is very limited on the island, you're kind of back to the wall. And so really focusing on affordable housing there, which is not public housing per se, but it builds out to where, we all need to have affordable safe homes. And that's a very big push for Roosevelt Island. And another thing that's a little bit more tangential for Roosevelt Island, but also very important is the development happening there.
Okay.
Roosevelt Island has a lot of public land. So there's the Cornell campus, Cornell Tech. They got public land to build. It went to for-profit developers, one of which is a very egregious record. Coming from my labor background, professionally, I do legislative and policy work for a labor union. So the development side of things, when I'm seeing public land giving away for $1 or a less than fair market value, I'm like, hold up, what's happening here?
Yep.
Why are we giving away our public land?
That's
You
right.
know, yes, absolutely, let's support the school, let's educate. That's not a problem. But let's be sure, because there is private housing being built now on this public land by private for-profit developers, that it's affordable, especially as the island is also losing affordable housing in other ways. So that's something that's more nuanced for the island, but also very important because we have more opportunities to really take back the reins of development power and be sure communities getting what they need, not being given something they don't.
Right. Wow. I look forward to traveling with you over to Roosevelt Island really soon. Yeah, Stan,
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're fighting against all this overdevelopment. So I just want to pose a question. Are you receiving any money from real estate developers, any of that going to your campaign?
No, when I launched my campaign, I launched it with a pledge to reject all real estate donations, corporate PACs.
Give us
That's
some.
right. Give us some. Give it a beat. No real estate money, but yeah, no real estate money. Go on.
Yep.
Go on.
Because I think when I was launching my campaign, I just felt it's difficult. How do you say, I'm going to fight for tenants and I'm going to stand up and I'm going to be sure we have affordable housing. I'm going to fight for NYCHA. And then at the same time be like, but I'll take a check, Rebbe.
Right.
Like, how
That's
do you
right.
do that? I just, as a person, I can't square that circle. You know,
Right.
yes, you have to talk to developers. Absolutely. You have to have relationships with them. But to me, a relationship doesn't have a dollar value. A relationship is, okay, you want to come and build in my community? Not a problem. Let's have a conversation. These are the checks I want to see in place. These are demands my community has. This is what we need to see happen. Now, how do we work together to make it happen? Don't pick up the phone and call me and say, remember when I gave you that check?
That's
no
right.
one's ever going to be able to do that
Yeah.
to me from real estate.
That's right. That's right. That's important. Very important.
So, how do you feel about the relationship between the police and the community? Right? How do you feel? And what would you do, or what would you like to do to sort of heal that? Really?
It's something that's really at the front of so many people's minds right now, and it's unfortunate that it took so many murders, so many lives to be lost to bring it to people, to bring it to the front of their mind. You know, as Saundrea said, in the neighborhood on the Upper East Side, every night, tonight's night 75, we're having Black Lives Matter gatherings where neighbors are coming out, majority
So
white
wait, I want
neighbors.
to be clear for my people. So you're saying every night
Yeah.
Yes.
that you
Amazing.
and Saundrea,
Yeah.
Some others.
And others in the
yeah,
community.
but I'm just saying, I want to be clear how it's going down, are out there every night doing
Yeah.
a vigil.
Yeah, I'll
Every
be out
night.
there after this. Yeah.
Wow, and,
Yeah,
and,
me
and
too.
how long y'all been doing this?
75 days. We started on June 2nd.
Yeah.
Gentleman
Beautiful.
Patrick called the first one after George Floyd was murdered because so many people felt strongly, myself included. But with the pandemic, it was like, for example, after Eric Garner, I was outside at 1 Center Street. I was out there protesting. I was in the streets, thousands of people. I don't care, not a problem. But now in a pandemic, it's
Right.
like, okay, I have immune-compromised people close to me. I can't go out in those crowds, but I want to do something.
Right.
And so on June 2nd, we called a local action. Patrick did, and thousands of people came out.
Yeah. It's
And
crazy.
it was
Wow.
I was there.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
Overwhelming. And from there, every night since, we still get a group of 100 to 200 people 75 days later
Yeah.
on the Upper East Side, which is known as being a community entrenched in conservatism.
Sure.
It is a community that is
Okay.
majority white. Just
Right.
look at census data. Look, that's just a fact, you know?
It's
And
100% a fact.
and if my neighbors, my white neighbors predominantly want to come out and they're finally having this eye-opening moment that silence is violence, I'm here for it. And I'm
Right.
ready to facilitate any way I can
Right.
because this will bring about change to policing that I feel we need 100% in New York City. Because policing shouldn't be that people on the Upper East Side love the cops because it's very Leave It to Beaver up there. Policing should be
you're
where
right.
everyone can have that kind of love for
Right,
whatever
right.
public safety agency we create. Because I do believe in defunding the police. I do believe in disbanding the NYPD as we know it
that's
and
right.
moving to reimagine public safety for communities where it's not a lawless society. It's not a free run of everything,
Right.
but there's a different mechanism for public safety.
Talk
You know,
about
for
it.
example, if we see a homeless person, we're not having a cop come
Right.
and brutalize them. We're having a social worker come. You know, if you have a
So
woman
I
dealing...
like to address that, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to understand, because I've heard this term many times. What does defunding the police
Okay.
department look like? What does that look like?
It looks like immediately removing funds from the NYPD. The ask for this time was $1 billion in the budget. We didn't get to the billion. We got close to it. Taking those budget dollars and reallocating them to things that are needed in communities, things like public education, things like senior services, things like public housing. I do believe firmly if we're going to cut billions of dollars from the NYPD budget, which is upwards of 10 billion with a B, you know, like that's a lot of money we have to play with. So when you say, oh, we don't have money to fund NYCHA, yeah, you do. You're just not prioritizing these residents. You're not prioritizing these people. While at the same time, you're prioritizing a group that habitually hurts these Black and brown NYCHA residents primarily, which is unfortunate.
So would this be, if we defund them, what are we looking at in terms of the rise of crime?
Yeah, I was going to ask that question because now, do you think cops are actually pulling back? Because I see there's a rise in gun violence and all the rest of that since that call has gone out. So do you think cops are pulling back because of this call?
I do. Cops are definitely pulling back. I've heard things like the PBA has also told members, like, no, you know, be gentle. We can't protect you. We can't save you if, you know, you do something. And that's unfortunate because to me, if you really care about public safety, you're not going to let this rhetoric get in the way. You're going to say, no, I'm an officer and I want to do the right thing and I want to keep people safe. But that isn't happening, you know, and as we transition from policing as we know it to a new kind of community safety style, will there absolutely be bumps in the road? Yes. I'm not here to tell you that violence is going to disappear and everything's going to be all hunky-dory. Absolutely not. You know, I'm a realist. I believe honesty is the best policy. So, there are going to be growing pains. You know, there are going to be some moments where people will be like, oh my gosh, I wish I could call 911 right now while we're transitioning to a new program. But I do believe in the long run, when we take these knocks and we have these hard talks and we make these difficult decisions, that policing as we know it will transitioning to a public safety community-centered model will just be better on the whole for the city.
I mean, I just think that, and I agree that we need to reimagine the way the police department works, and certain things call for certain types of actions, right? And you're right. The homeless guy on the street that's mentally ill doesn't really need to be brutalized by the police, right? We don't need to do that. In the same token, you understand something. When we say defund the police, there's also a whole lot of criminals listening to that going, let's defund the police. You know what I'm saying?
Let me speak to something regarding that, since I worked for that agency and I was a money lady. I was a supervisor of payroll. When you're looking at $1 billion from that department, it does not cripple that department. It does not stop one member of service from getting paid at all. You know, if you're looking at overtime, they're probably making the most overtime right now since the death of George Floyd that they have ever made in their life.
I can imagine, sure.
Okay, so, and that money is going to come in even if it comes through federal dollars. Let's be real. If it got to come out, if the budget gets depleted. But when you look at the waste that is in that department and any city agency, you know, waste of overtime, those funds, the $1 billion does not hurt them. I would have said $2 billion.
Right.
You know, so it's not going to stop the cars from rolling. It's not going to deplete the manpower, because as people are retiring, there's classes coming in to replace those bodies. So we're still going to have, you know, police officers on the street. It's not going to change, you know, the demeanor. The morale is changing, yes, because they feel some kind of way. But right now, they're making, like I said, crazy overtime, and they're happy with that. And you know, some of them probably don't want it because, you know, they're losing some time with their family. Right. Just like when we had September 11th, you know, we were sending guys down there 12-hour shifts, you know, and stuff like that. So, and it was good money, but we had people that died from it. We had people that was missing their families and so forth. But defunding the police does not mean that it's going to stop everything. No, it's just pulling back and like Rebecca said, reallocating the funds to where it's needed, because there's a lot of waste. And if they really examine the funding and how the money goes out. Like I said, I was a payroll supervisor.
So you was checking
and
out the money.
And I worked in a regular squad, and, I seen the overtime being made, and, I mean, literally, like, if you're scheduled, here it go. Maybe I'll get some hate or whatever. But if you're making an arrest and you tell somebody to come in at 3 and you're getting off at 4, that's guaranteed overtime for you.
Right.
But you're doing an 8 to 4 shift. Like, come on. So, yeah.
Interesting enough, of course, Cynthia's in. Hey, Cynthia, what's up
Hey,
with you?
Cynthia.
Cynthia Tibbs.
And she said, homeless men are way too violent to be handled by social workers. Come see the mess on the Upper West Side.
Not all of them, no. We can't say, yeah.
But, I mean, what I can concur with that I can agree with, as when I worked EMS, right, we would get those characters. You know what I'm saying? I remember the first person that I ever had to pick up as an EMS worker was a guy named Frank Lugo, who had actually robbed a candy store and stood out in front of this candy store with his shirt off and no shoes on and just pants. ESU came first, the police, and they had to deal with him first before we could actually put him on the ambulance and cuff him, because some homeless people and some people that are mentally ill are also criminally mentally ill. You know what I'm saying? And you got to understand, let me give you something that's really basic. I have a friend, and his mom is going through Alzheimer's. She has Alzheimer's issues. But got to remember, that affects people differently. So she's actually violent. Like, she's actually pull a knife on you violent and thinks that you're something else. She's not even trying to hurt you, per se. She's hurting what her mind is telling that she's seeing, right? And in that case, you can have these cases that kind of happen that you think that this is an actual violent person. So the mental health issue is really a broad sort of a thing, and you don't know it until your boot is on the ground and you're standing in front of that person and you go, okay, this guy is just kooky.
Yeah.
Okay, come on.
But you need mental health professionals.
Oh, 100%.
There, yeah.
And if you're getting that call, because a lot of times we know the call at the beginning, the police should be with a mental health person that's there, right? The same way that when EMS calls, the police come and we are basically side by side. Yeah, you know what? Maybe we need to have a social worker. Listen, we got a domestic violence situation. We're going to need a social worker on site. We have a mental health call. The calls that come in. Okay, let's get the social worker, make sure they're on site. I think that's a great plan. You know what I'm saying? And then the professional can determine whether the person is actually violent or just a little kooky.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So that would be the deal.
Yeah, because, and Saundrea touched on it, there's no moment where suddenly we don't have any kind of law enforcement entity. It's not like we go to bed one night and the cops are there and we wake up the next day and we're like, nope, no more cops. Sorry, you guys, we're transitioning now. We're in that intermediary period. That doesn't happen. So while we set up the process to have these professionals, so you can have social workers go, and not just one, you may have one central person communicating to the individual, but you have support in numbers so someone isn't there alone, because then that is a safety risk for that social worker, that mental health counselor, whomever it is that is sent out. But finding a way where police aren't the only point of contact, because so many times, an officer may enter the situation and it amps it up. It escalates things.
Most of the time that happens, many times.
If someone had come in and maybe just a little more gently, a little more listening,
Correct.
a little more like coddling of things, where cops are not quick or ever often to do that, having those mechanisms in place. But we can't do that if funding isn't there. If NYPD gets that whole glut of funding and we can never pull things back to give to other agencies or set up new ideas to function like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
sense.
like in the developments, I have neighbors or people complaining about homeless people and the exit and stuff like that. And yes, it is dangerous, but they shouldn't be criminalized if they don't have nowhere to sleep.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, where's the humanity? Like, everyone is literally a paycheck away from being homeless themselves, literally, in this city or during this pandemic. So, and we're going crazy over that. No, call, if you got to call the police, but at least even be that eye, because depending on how they show up, of course, now it's gloves, right? You want to be safe. But there's times before this pandemic when they dealt with the homeless people, they would put on gloves because they had to. And I get that.
Right.
But they don't need to be criminalized for their downfall or, what happened to them in their lives.
And I've heard that from a lot of NYCHA residents too, and it's tough because I don't ever want to be perceived to be anti-homeless,
Right,
and you don't want to be put in that barrel. But it's the city's fault. You shouldn't just drop homeless folks into a community that's already suffering during a pandemic and say, okay, here comes all these folks with no services at all for them, no drug treatment, no counseling, no nothing, and now here they are. And they're making a lot of money from it. They're paying $3,000 for a family.
Yeah.
So you can build affordable housing if you can give a hotel owner $3,000 for a family. I mean, it's absurd. It's absurd.
It's all about what we prioritize. It's all about how we choose to care about people. And like you said, Stan, well, if the city can pay for hotel rooms, why can't we bundle up that money, give it to a nonprofit, and build low-income and extremely low-income affordable housing, so you have formerly homeless families, and there's a place to go. And you know what? Let's take it a step further. Let's make sure they get a good job. And I'm not talking a $15 an hour job. Let's find a, for example, in construction, let's get you a prevailing wage. Let's get you health benefits. Let's get you retirement security. It's care of the whole
Carpenters,
person.
electricians.
Yes.
Housing is one piece. We need to really think about humans we're not just one issue. We're all diverse individuals with different backgrounds, and the city needs to start putting that care into each person. Because if I was on the street, if I lose my job and I don't have those paychecks, I would want someone to come to me in a compassionate, empathetic way. I wouldn't want someone putting a boot to my head saying, hey, wake up, what are you doing here? Because you can't be sleeping on the street or you can't be on the subway, you know? Like we saw the man on 51st Street taking up 2 seats. We've all taken up multiple seats on the train. No one should be punched in the face by an officer for doing that.
That was OD.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, and so those are the issues. That's really what defunding is about. Yes, it's very broad. Yes, it's very nuanced. Yes, it's very scary. But it's about moving away from those situations so we don't have law enforcement that feels comfortable acting in that way, quite honestly, because if that cop didn't think nothing's going to happen to me or I'll be protected, wouldn't have done it in the first place either, quite honestly.
Qualified immunity.
Yeah.
I mean,
abolish it.
It's interesting enough because Cynthia brought something up in the chat room and it triggered something in me, right? And she said that the homeless person was actually some of the homeless people up there are actually terrorizing kids, right? And then I remembered that when my daughter was, she's 7 today, by the way. Today's her birthday.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
To you.
When she was basically like an infant, I was carrying her, and there was this mentally ill person, right? And he starts cussing at me, and he's going crazy, and I'm going, "Hey, whoa, listen! You see, I'm carrying an infant." He's like, "Bah, bah, bah, bah," going off, and then he starts chasing me, right? With my infant strapped to my chest, right? And I just remember telling him, I said, I'm going to see you one day. I promise you that, right? Because now now here's what just happened. I didn't care he was mentally ill, right? I'm like, look at what I'm doing here. So I took off and I'm running. He chased me and then I was able to get away. 6 months later, I saw him on the train. I was getting on the train to go to work.
I'm scared.
And I went,
Is a dish best served cold, as they say.
I went, oh, it's you. And he was terrorizing the train.
Wow.
The train was pulled over at Roosevelt Avenue. It was like the E train or something. And the conductor had to stop the train because he was terrorizing the car. And he's going crazy. And people are running off of the car. And when he stepped off, he went to attack this guy.
Wow.
There was a guy in a trench coat. And as he went to attack him, I came right behind him and said, whoop! And I yoked him up. Right? And as I was choking him to the ground, I wasn't trying to kill him. I was just trying to
clean it up.
Restrain him. I said, it's me. I got you now. It's me, right? Now he's trying to go in his pockets for a knife. So I told the guy, I said, listen, sit on his hands. I said, sit on his hands. I said, get his hands out, grab his hands. He's trying to go for a knife. And then the police came, and then they were able to take him. But there's a very personal situation where I didn't even care that he was mentally ill. You know what I'm saying? I just knew that he was dangerous.
Right.
And as I tried to talk to him in the situation, he wasn't responding. You know what I'm saying? And that's the balance that we got. You know what I'm saying? And I restrained him. And I didn't beat him up. I just restrained him until the police came. When they came, I was like, listen, I'm a paramedic. Blah blah boom. Da da da. Here's my shield number. I'm on my way to work. But I just remember that happening. And how do you deal with that with someone that's not trained in dealing with something like that. I mean, suppose I was, I don't know, let's say 27, 28-year-old new mom, and this is happening. Like, how do you deal with, there's a balance. That's what I'm trying to
there's a balance for sure. And in those moments, it's tough. I'm not going to lie to you. It's also like, I'm a young woman. I walk with a cane. How would I react if someone was coming at me like that? We can't account for these things. We never know in the moment how we're going to respond to that threat of violence, because it's fight or flight. You had your daughter with you. You're like, hell no, you're not stepping to me. You're not stepping to the baby. Like, absolutely not. But in that moment, still, the first thing that came to mind for me was what's going on with him that makes him act in this erratic manner. Yes, he's being violent. Yes, that's what we see outwardly projecting.
Here we go. That's a phone call.
We got a call.
Oh, we got a live one.
All right.
That is who we think it is.
Is that who it is?
Press 1.
Is that who I think it
Is that
is?
Cynthia Tibbs?
I don't know.
That is.
It is Cynthia
It is?
Tibbs.
Cynthia.
It's me.
Okay.
Hey.
I thought it was somebody else
It is
that said they
Cynthia
might
Tibbs
call
on
in.
the line.
Hey.
What's up, Cynth?
What's up?
How you doing?
Following behind, I'm better. Following
good,
behind
I'm
your story. Following behind your story, which you just stated, we have to remember that the senior citizen population has doubled since the 80s. So is children. So has mental illness. When you decide to put 5 men's shelters in the radius of 10 blocks or 15 blocks, in the radius of 3 elementary schools, 3 high schools, and 2 private schools, it's going to create an issue. We never said we wanted the police to fund it. We wanted the money rerouted differently, but we also wanted them to take the bad apples out. We don't want police brutality. We actually need the police because we can't wait for a social worker to come up here when we have a homeless person defecating in front of children in a schoolyard. And that's what I'm witnessing over here. I don't witness that on the east side because they weren't sent to the east side. They were sent to the west side. We have second degree and third degree sexual predators in these hotels up here. We have a woman who authorized it because she's on her way out the door and she really doesn't care about the Upper West anymore. We have never had this many homeless in a school district as close-knit as we have here. We are not against homeless. I would have rather had a homeless family with children that could take advantage of the school system that's circulating around us.
Sure.
Rather than have 5 men's shelters up here that stand out here and masturbate in front of children in front of the steps of the Museum of Natural History at 1:30 in the afternoon. No social worker is going to be able to handle that. We need the police to handle that. And the police told us at the Build-A-Block meeting that their hands are tied, that they have been told to stand down. If they don't see the masturbating or the defecating happen in front of them, there's nothing they can do about it. We've had a woman stand at the police.
You said they were told to stand down?
Yes, stand down.
Well, we need, at the end of the day, we need housing. We actually need housing for people that are homeless. So,
right now,
but that's what we need first and foremost.
Yes, we do.
And that's what we need to be advocating for housing. We need to push the legislators and people that's dealing with these developers to build more affordable housing. It makes no sense because the homeless, it's a crisis, literally. NYCHA's in a crisis. Our homeless population is in a crisis. And yes, you have people that are, some bad actors in those places. And then you also have some good actors in the places that went through some hard times. And at the end of the day, people don't even want to live in those shelters. You know what I'm saying? Because it's
dangerous.
Bad.
I get all of that. But what I'm saying is the mayor has run this city into the ground to the point, just like the heads of NYCHA back in the 80s was pocketing all that money, and they ran us into the ground. There is no accountability anymore in New York City from any administration, and it has created this melting pot where we're all drowning in it.
And Cynthia, Give me a minute. I'm going to go after that. So I'm going to hit you in a minute. All right, Mama? Thank you for calling.
Thank you for calling in.
All right,
Thank
I'm going to hit you on that.
I'm expecting somebody else.
I want to know what do you have to say about that as a candidate? Cynthia made some pretty good points. What do you have to say about some of that stuff that she was talking about?
I've been following the issue on the Upper West Side very closely because a lot of the pushback to those shelters are similar to pushback that's been in my neighborhood when we've had some shelters built. You know, for example, a few years ago, Women's Shelter, Women in Need, which is a nonprofit, they wanted to open up a shelter in the neighborhood. And people, quite honestly, their heads flipped off. They were up in arms. What are we going to do? What are these women going to be doing? I heard some, very unfortunate comments about what their habits could be and why they're homeless. And it's so I'm familiar with this rhetoric. It's not something I haven't heard before. But to me, really, like Saundrea said, it's about housing. Like why are we pivoting to this shelter situation now? Because we don't have housing for them. And if we don't have housing and they're not going in a shelter, then where are they? They're on the street, which is then going to be more of a problem where we're going to hear more from the public.
Which is kind of interesting, right? Because when are you due to be elected into the city council? When do you do? When is that?
June of 2021 is the primary.
It's 2021. Okay, cool. So check this out. By the time you get there, the homeless situation in New York City is going to be through the roof.
That's right.
Because of the COVID situation. Right now, there are millions of New Yorkers that are about to be evicted from their homes.
Yep.
If the courts open up. That's right. They're out. So the homeless situation in your term is going to be a big, big deal.
Yeah, and that's why it becomes even more important that instead of focusing on all of this private market rate housing that's getting built, like for example on the Upper West Side, we all know for a fact there is private market rate housing being built. This community, yes, be vocal and be opposed to these shelters if that's how you feel, but then be just as vocal to your electeds and say, why is that housing for $4,000 a month? Why isn't the government saying make it this affordability level? Why aren't we using it for homeless families, like Cynthia said? All of the schools around, it's the Upper West Side. Parents would love for their students and their children to go there. So why, be just as vocal and hold your electeds just as accountable. Don't say, I don't want a shelter. Take it to the next place. Say, why is this luxury development happening? I want this to be 100% affordable at 30% of the AMI. Take it to the next place. Don't just look at the problem and yell about the problem, because at the end of the day, again, these are all humans. And as humans, no matter what you're dealing with mentally, perhaps, or emotionally, we all want to have a place to stay. We all want to be safe. We all want to have food. We all want to be loved. And thinking about that first, even though you may see, there's a man that walks around with no pants on masturbating on 2nd Avenue. I live at 92nd and 2nd. I see his genitalia flapping in the breeze more often than I'd really like to. But you know what?
Gotcha. Okay.
But you know what? That also, that's New York City. And regardless, that man, I still want that man to have a home. I don't like seeing that when I'm out walking my dog, but I'm still not going to yell about it. I'll say, hey, council member, build housing for him. Hey, council member, fund homeless outreach services. Hey, council member, why are the homeless shelters so bad and so riddled with COVID right now that people don't want to go there? And we're not even talking, right now it's about men's shelter. What if you're a homeless woman? And then you're dealing with sexual assault issues and violence. And so there's so many layers to it where, yes, it is so easy to say, I don't want this in my community, but that's just not me as a person. I would rather find a way to make it better all around. And that is not individual shelters like this popping up. This is actually income targeting, putting our money where our mouth is. Bill de Blasio, Mr. Tale of Two Cities. We had a whole different feeling.
Call him out. She shouted him out. That's a shout out. You took my normal role, so go and call him out.
Yeah,
there you go.
We can't pretend to be about it, because yes, homelessness has exploded. I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I was born on Long Island. My family came into the city nonstop all the time. I have a sister that lives on the Upper West Side. So I'm very aware of these issues. Homelessness, in the 90s, early 2000s to now, you're right, it is getting worse. But because we have ignored a problem, we have allowed a problem to fester. It's just like NYCHA. You've turned away from it. You've said, I'm not going to acknowledge it. This is so big. Oh my gosh, I can't climb that mountain. The mountain just sits there. The Himalayas never go away. They're always going to be there waiting for us to climb it.
So would you say that we would need shelter reform
Not just shelter reform, we need housing reform.
We need affordable
Right.
housing.
Yeah, we need
I mean,
affordable
deeply
housing.
affordable housing.
So is that-
But
so
while
we saying
waiting for
to-
that,
Okay.
it starts with shelter reform, where we have more supportive services. That includes mental health counseling. That includes changes to the hourly structure, where people are out on the street starting at 7 a.m. and then they got nowhere to go. What happens? That's
Right.
so early.
Right, 7 to 7, sure.
Yeah, so the whole way it's structured. So yes, it does start with reform, but that's not it, because reform isn't enough. Reform is saying, here's a problem, I'm going to kind of half step it,
Right.
take it to the next level. Start with reform, make the situation better while we wait for housing to be built. I got a construction background. Building housing takes a long time.
Right.
It takes at least a year. And we're not
Right.
talking a little 5-story walk-up like I live in. We're talking high-rises like they're putting up in other places. Just outside my district, 157 West 57th Street. That's super tall, up into the stratosphere, up into the clouds that you see by Central Park.
Sure.
Things like that. That's empty. Why? Because it's a tax haven for the ultra wealthy.
Yeah.
So again, yell at your electeds and say,
Yeah.
this is the problem.
There you
Let's
go.
form-
You just made a statement. Now I got to back it up. Hold on.
I got to follow. I got a follow question.
Yeah.
I got a question again.
That big, tall, giant building that you're talking about is empty?
Mostly empty, yeah.
A lot of that's
Really?
going on in Long Island City
Yeah.
too. They building all these
Yeah.
high rise,
And
and
it's
they
not-
sitting there empty,
Yeah. You
It's
live-
and they
not
turning them into
affordable.
shelters.
even on 94th
and they're putting
Street,
homeless
for the
people in
city.
there.
So
That's what they're
luxury-
doing.
luxury-
What's happened with that? Is it because the luxury market has shrunk that people aren't buying like that?
It's
what's
twofold.
the deal? Yeah,
so
please.
the luxury market is there, but it's a lot of international money. So people from outside the United States will come and use it as a tax shelter. So then you can say, oh, I have a New York City apartment and I have some money in the United States. So it's twofold.
Right.
And people
right.
aren't there, So, and then
got it.
here in the States, there's the whole second house tax situation that happens. So a lot of the luxury housing, just like in Long Island City, I did a lot of work on the Long Island City rezoning for the construction union because that was unaffordable to the neighborhood.
right.
The government's engineering gentrification and displacement. That is
Absolutely.
what they're doing. Let's call a spade, quite
Spade.
honestly.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Okay.
And when you look at a neighborhood and the neighborhood makes say $50,000 and you have housing built that starts for families making 75, what are you doing? What's happening?
Right.
And
That's right.
with something like 157 West 57th Street, if you have apartments that are all ultra luxe, where I, with a very nice job, I can't afford to live there, and I can't even dream of a time I'd ever be able to afford to live there.
Right.
What do you do then? That housing is just going to sit there empty, and you have people on the street. When we have places that are empty and you have a human sitting on the street, nowhere to go, nothing to eat, nowhere to shower, brush their teeth, go to the bathroom. What if you're a woman that needs a sanitary product? What do? It's all about what we prioritize and what we care about and what we want to fund. So homelessness, it's not an easy apple
Fix.
to bite at.
No,
It's
not at
not.
all.
I mean, also, but that's governing. Nothing's easy. Fixing NYCHA, is that easy? No, we can't just throw money at the problem, because if that worked, well, NYCHA would be wonderful right now, quite honestly, and that's not happening,
Right.
Same with the MTA. We can't just throw money at the subways. No, you have to be targeted. You have to be detailed. You have to be purposeful in what you're doing and strategic in the decisions you make. And we do keep seeing decisions being made that benefit a certain kind of person, and now it's important that for the next council, for people like myself and others that feel similarly, that we really take back these reins of power for development, and we say,
right.
no more of this, especially if it's public land, like I was talking about on Roosevelt Island, or up locally at Holmes Towers when they wanted to privatize a public children's playground to put
Yep.
up market housing.
That's right.
That
We
was one
fought
of
that.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's how I met Saundrea. We marched to Gracie Mansion together because that's another example of Bill de Blasio just turning a blind eye and not caring and giving this public land to someone that donated $40,000 to his campaign. I'm
That's how it
sorry.
goes.
You can't,
Yep.
at a certain
Right.
point, you can't tell me it's raining when I feel something on my leg, like the saying goes. That's the reality, unfortunately.
So
Yeah.
I have something. I'm gonna change a little bit. I'm gonna shift the conversation. How do you feel right now about, if you were in office right now? How do you feel about the situation that we want to send these kids back to school in the midst of this COVID situation? What's your take on that?
I think we need to postpone the school reopening. I'm not a parent, full disclosure, so I do not have
I am, and
skin
I
in the
agree.
game.
As a parent, I agree. Go on.
I think there are so many unanswered questions. Like, for example, right now, teachers will be the ones doing their classroom cleaning, and we're already asking teachers to do how much. So now on top of that, to say, hey, take the Clorox, do this, do that, that's unfair. Also, when we're going to have students there with masks, we know little kids. Your daughter's 7. Do you think she'll keep her mask on the whole time in school?
Pretty much no.
My daughter's 15, and she's not going to do that. Teenagers are going to do what teenagers do. They're going to take the mask off, they're going to run, they're going to play, and do all the stuff they're going to do. And then bring it home to their families. That's what's going to happen.
And that's the next part that I think we're ignoring too much. It's not just about when the student is in the classroom to me. It's more so about what happens when that student goes home. What if grandma takes care of that student and then grandma gets COVID? Because the child's asymptomatic and the child's okay, but grandma isn't, for example. What do we do then? And we know internal activity with large groups, that's the most unsafe thing. You know, that's what we need to be avoiding. And I think we really need to thread this needle slowly, because what I would hate to see happen is children go to school and then we're seeing cases like, I believe it was Indiana. They had like 100,000 students almost, or like it was a couple thousand students test immediately positive after like 1 week of school. And that would be the absolute worst case scenario, because we put in so much work here in the city to flatten our curve and to have such a low transmission rate. But that's not going to stay if we allow in-person gatherings like school to start up, unfortunately. And that does have workforce impacts. That affects every family differently. So I'm very aware of that. I'm very cognizant of that. But still, it's about health and safety at this point. And work is important as well. But if you're not healthy and safe, you can't go to work even.
That's true.
So we need to be thinking about it that way.
And I guess as a parent, I asked my daughter, what does she want to do? And kids do want to go back because they want to socialize. And she was very honest about why she wanted to go back. And the other thing that's tough is that the learning at home, remote learning, hasn't been that great. You know, so I know there's kids who are kind of falling behind. So it is a tough issue. But in the end of the day, I'd rather say stay home for a year and be alive than go back now
to the vaccine
and die. Place, you know, so I'm as a parent, I'm prepared to say, you know what, okay, we got to put that on hold. I'd rather live. I think folks got to look at it like that. You know, you want your child to learn, yes, but do you want to live?
I have a question for Rebecca. Since, you know, a lot of people are struggling still, do you think that we should get another stimulus, another round to stimulate the economy, even though they call it something else, but we know what it is? Yeah. Do you foresee that? Because they did they tweaking the unemployment, correct? So can you speak to both of those?
I support a second stimulus, and I support leaving the extra unemployment insurance benefit at $600.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean, sorry.
However, unfortunately, our federal representatives on the Republican side, mostly led by Mitch McConnell, they're not willing to play ball on that. Which it's crazy to me. They're saying, well, no, people need to go back to work. We're giving them too much money, and it's like, you're going to send people back to work to get sick?
That or to die.
To die. Yeah, quite honestly, to die, you know, and it's not being like scary or alarmist to say that, because that's the reality, especially depending on the kind of job that you do have. So I don't see the federal government coming through on that. Congress just recessed, for example. Like, yes, they're working hard. Yeah, you know, I'm a union person, so I'm not saying don't take your break, but I'm just saying if there's an emergency, maybe delay your break a bit and be sure that families can pay their bills and families can keep a roof over their head. Because, like, the $1,200 pandemic check, I don't know about you guys, but, like, that's not enough to pay my rent, okay? And that was a one-time deal. And I'm blessed to have a good job. I'm blessed to be employed, and I have nothing but myself to support. Imagine if I was a parent. I think about that all the time.
And your dog.
My dog, yes. You know, he's spoiled. He has a lifestyle he's grown accustomed to. But, yeah, like, I can't... To think about them prioritizing their own political gains or even the November election over lives now is egregious to me. But that's also one of the reasons why I'm running for office, because I will be a different kind of elected official. You know, I don't need to personally experience something to care about it. If I see it as a problem, it is a problem. It doesn't matter if it's not a problem for me in the moment. It's affecting someone in my community, someone I care about, whomever, and we need to find a solution to it.
I do want to ask a question. When I went to the Upper East Side vigil, I was very, very inspired, actually, to see so many white folks that are up there and consistently protesting for causes that affect black people. So can you speak to how that's impacted you, and also give a message to white people, you know, during this time, as to how they should be viewing racism and such. And can you speak to that?
Yeah, so as a white woman, I feel it's incumbent upon myself.
You white? my God. These masks are so deceiving.
Do a little list. Let them see. Just a little something. That they can see it. All that woman is dead. You can put it back on. Isn't she lovely?
These masks are so deceiving. Wow. Okay.
Yes. So yes.
Yeah, but so as a white woman, I do feel that it's incumbent upon myself and upon other white people to step up and end that silence, because our silence has allowed racism isn't new. It simply allowed it to perpetuate and go unchecked. You know, like I think of what I call polite racism, where growing up, there are the jokes white people would only make in front of other white people, or there are comments that are made when they don't think a person of color's around, you know, and that's, you're still a racist. You're just maybe a little bit more aware that what you're saying is racist, but that doesn't change who you are. And so the fact that so many of my neighbors are kind of having that awakening and realizing like, wow, if I don't say something, that means somebody else doesn't think they have to say something, and this whole cycle's just going to perpetuate. And then also take it to the next place. Like, if it was me, I would want someone to come and help me. I would want someone to say, what's happening to you is wrong, and I'm not going to let it happen anymore. I will not condone it. I will step up, and I will be the one to say, this is wrong, and we need to do better. And that's also why I fight so hard, because at any point in time, you never know what can happen. And if we're going to allow Black Americans, Black New Yorkers to just continually to be treated like this, it's 2020, like, when is it going to end?
Right.
And I believe if we don't step up now and we don't fight and continue fighting, we'll never see that change. Now, that being said, day 75 of a bunch of white Upper East Siders, majority, not all, but majority, you know, because statistically that's the neighborhood, that they're still coming out. That gives me hope that we're going to see change. That gives me hope.
It does give hope. Yeah, it does.
That we're really onto something, because there's so many people there that have come up and like this may be their first time protesting. Saundrea can speak to it. Like they haven't engaged in this way yet, where they're learning things for the first time. You know, like school segregation, or the fact that society is still segregated, or how housing is built segregates us, or like just everything. Racism is structural, it's systemic, it's everywhere. And it's also a part of owning as a white person that there are little things I'm going to do, even while being a part of this movement for change, that may make someone uncomfortable, that may be incorrect, but I don't damn myself for that. It's an opportunity for Saundrea to pull me inside and say, hey, Rebecca, this happened, this is a better way to do it. Or this happened and this made me feel this way. Adjust your behavior. And that's what this is really about to me, because if this movement wasn't happening, those conversations wouldn't be going on in our community at all.
Right.
It just wouldn't. It just wouldn't. And like I said earlier, it's unfortunate that so many people had to be murdered and so many lives were lost to get to this place. But we're here now. And we need to capitalize on it, and we need to keep pushing, because if we don't, we know what happens.
Right.
You know, things will just move on, and this will fade away from media coverage, which it largely has, because things are peaceful.
Right.
You know, the rioting, the looting, that was all over the news. But now when you have for close to 100 days people gathering consecutively, that's not press-worthy.
Isn't that something? Isn't that something? That's a shame.
The consistency.
Right.
Also, we do a call to action every night, pretty much. So, you know, we flag the post office, right? And then there's another one. We had one last night. There's a new one tonight.
Okay.
You know, what's the general? What is his title? The guy we
the US
emailed,
Postmaster,
right? The
Louis
postmaster,
DeJoy, who he
Yeah.
owns stock and is a huge private entity in companies that are in direct competition for shipping and mail services with the U.S. Postal Service. So, to me, that would be a conflict of interest. But based on what we deal with 45, the president's family, you know, like that's just par for the course at this point.
And to just think that people still receive checks monthly or every other week. Some people workers comp still receive checks, depending on where you in, what law, the city law is coming like that. They don't let you do direct deposit. So and medication, and all of this stuff
is dangerous.
Comes through the mail, and then we know the reason, right?
You want to stop
the absentee ballot, like okay, so you really want the Black and the brown people that are really subjected to this pandemic to go out and be on a line. You see it in the other states.
Yeah.
They're out there 4 and 5 and 6 hours, not for a pair of sneakers, but to vote.
Wow.
Like, no. So we got to get on our elected officials, us all, and those that are listening, because I'm going to do it with Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney. Let's get that bus to Isaac houses, and let's do the early voting. You know, she sent us a bus before. Let's do it again, but let's plan it so the people will know. Because it was only 2 of us that rode out. We had a full bus that was going to do shifts, and, you know, but it was only 2 of us that went out, myself and Jose.
Wow.
We had a big old bus. I mean, but if we plan it, and they were coming to Queensbridge the next day. I reached out to you.
Well, I remember that.
So, yeah. But if we can coordinate it and work with Ernie and, you know, her team, you know, and get some of these elected officials to send them to the, you know, for the early voting, for the people to go out. So we're not subjected to, I mean, stand on those lines. I know it's not like that really in New York City, but still, you know, some people are still don't want to be in the crowds and stuff like that. And the down south, the other states, y'all have to do it too. So that might be another call to action for us.
And also, the attack on the post office does relate to, I mean, racism in the United States. The majority of the workforce at the U.S. Postal Service are black and brown men and women, majority black women. And so when the president attacks the post office, that's a continuation of racism, because postal workers are a member of multiple unions, the largest one being the APWU. And so the collectively bargained wages and benefits that they've been able to win for this majority black and brown workforce has helped, I mean, eat away at the generational wage gap that we know is insane between white and black families. And so now to have that also as an assault to take away this good job when it's so difficult to find something with wages and benefits, like, it's just continuing that cycle, which is why, you know, it is applicable to a Black Lives Matter gathering tonight. That is our call to action, because racism isn't just about the police. Like, we just talked about racism is everywhere. The police is one piece, but like we had someone speaking about incarceration and solitary confinement. We've had speakers about education, because it's not enough to just educate yourself on police. And while we have this captive audience of people that are finally opening up and they're ending their silence, like, well, let's run right through that door together, and let's really arm you with the information to make change.
So have you done like any debates yet or anything? Where are you in the process of this thing?
So the process is still a little early. We are less than a year away from Election Day. So my main election will be a primary election. A bunch of Democrats all running against themselves. May the best person win. I like to think I'm the best person. That's June of 2021. I launched my campaign officially in November of 2019. And so right now I'm in the phase of building a campaign team, increasing fundraising, you know, getting my name out there, and continuing just on the ground activity.
And who are you running against?
So I don't like to speak their names into existence. You know.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right.
That's fair.
Okay.
There are, so I'll describe them. There are 4 other people in the race. There's a female district
But I mean,
leader.
is there an incumbent? That's what I meant.
No.
Okay, that's
it's
what
an
I
open
meant.
seat. Yeah. So it's friendly fire. So and that's also what pushed me to run. Because the seat was opening up. And I'm, you know, yes, you can primary an incumbent, especially if they have a bad record. I have no issue with that. But if it's someone that's doing the work and putting in the time, I'm not going to come and joust at your windmill. I'm going to let you do you, and I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for my time when it's right for me. And so that's why when the seat was opening up with the election in 21, I made the decision in late 2019 and officially launched things to put myself out there, because the people that in the race, a female district leader, a male district leader, 2 people from the community board, everyone was coming from a certain area, and I just felt like there was no one speaking about on the ground issues in a real active way. No one that was going to be out there kind of in the trenches, arm in arm with people, fighting in a way that's different, that's not business as usual. And that's, Saundrea can speak to it. I'm definitely not a business as usual kind of person.
Yeah.
You know?
She's tough.
Well, here's what I want to do, because I want to make sure that we get this in, because we're in that end of the hour thing.
Ooh.
So I want to make sure that we do this here.
What am I saying?
All right, and there you go. And this is your, what are we looking at here?
So that is my campaign website. Visit RebeccaLamorte.com. There you can find information about my background, why I'm running, issues I want to work on, like affordable housing, accessibility. Handicapped accessibility is personal for me. It's something I haven't spoken about much today, but it's 2013, I was pushed on the subway, and it left me with a lifelong disability. And when you see life through that lens, after
Please, let's talk about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So in 2013, I was riding the 6 train home one Saturday, and a woman pushed me. I thought I was putting my foot on the platform, and it was the gap, and I went in, and my leg was crushed.
Wow.
And I'm very blessed. It could have been worse. You know, I'm still mobile. I'm on my feet, but I walk with a cane. I have a permanent disability in my left leg now.
Got you.
And before that, I was 22 when it happened. You know, I know I look young. I'm not collecting Social Security yet. You know, so
Still working.
Not like me. Not like the old elder statesman in this room.
But so at 22, when you've lived life and you've never thought about like, oh, I can't go down those stairs, or how do I get on that train, or how do I carry, like, when you've never thought about those things, and then suddenly, like, I couldn't get on the train for close to a year because I couldn't do the stairs, and a majority of the New York City transit system is inaccessible. And when I say inaccessible, I mean you have to go up multiple flights of stairs, or up or down, to get to and from a train. And that's worse in the outer boroughs, like where you stand, where you're going up the trestles and then back down. And that's one of the real things that also drove me to run, because I have a voice. I'm not afraid to use it. And I now have a very small glimpse of what life is like when there are very real barriers out there. And so accessibility in transit, accessibility in public accommodations. I was once told if I can't walk up the stairs in City Hall, I shouldn't be there. And well, goddamn, you're going to watch me go up those stairs. As a council member, okay.
And I want to say something about that because, first of all, you know, I've never been handicapped. However, when I teach CPR, when I was teaching CPR in the city, I used to have to carry these big giant bags, right, on the train. So I would have to use handicap accessible ways to move these bags. And then I realized just through that small glimpse on how difficult it is for handicaps to move around the city. I mean, you get off the train and then it's like, the elevator's out of order. Okay, what do you do with that?
Right.
You're in a wheelchair. And then you got off the train already. Right? What do you do with that?
Sure.
Right? I mean, it was things like that I found really frustrating and annoying. And it just gave me and I'm talking about big stations. I'm like 42nd Street. You're getting off on 42nd, elevator's out of order. So now you have to go, and you have to be aware of where the next station is, right? But hold on, you wanted to get off of 42nd. So now how do you get from 14th Street to 42nd Street and you're handicapped? When you stop with 42nd, you understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I just remember going through these things and thinking to myself, this is what handicapped people deal with on a daily basis. I'm able-bodied and walking, and I'm frustrated. You know, so you're right. You're right.
I can say a lot of NYCHA buildings are not handicapped, built for handicapped folks as well. It's an issue in NYCHA, big time. I'm hearing that from a lot of residents. It's a shame.
Or when the elevators continually go out. What do you do if you're mobility impaired? Or not even that. Like, you carrying your equipment for work, that's your course of business. What if you're a parent with a stroller? What if you're going on vacation and you just got a lot of big bags? Like, accessibility affects so many people in so many different ways. For me, it's personal, where I cannot get around the city sometimes because I physically am just not in the shape to move like I should. But you, with your bags, like, that shouldn't be an imposition for you either. Every single station should be, but it pivots back to, again, what are we prioritizing? Because if you cared about people with disabilities, or you cared about equal access, which we have laws all about that, quite honestly, but you would honor it and you would do it. And we would forget all the grandfather clause stuff, which is where, like, they'll put in new tiles on the subway walls but say, oh no, we can't put in an elevator. So then why the heck are you spending hundreds of thousands putting up tile mosaics? I don't care if the wall looks nice if I can't get to the wall to see it.
There's common sense in that. Hold on, I have to do this other thing because, you know, I got to make sure we take care of business. I got to show where they can donate, right? So that's it up on the screen.
RebeccaLamort.com/donate. No donation is too small so I'm participating in the city's public matching funds. I believe that campaigns should be publicly financed, so kind of akin to what I said about real estate. You're not out there, what I jokingly call dancing for dollars. You're out there actually talking to voters. You're in the community. You're being active. You're not having to dial and say, hey, I really need some money so I could get these mailers. So I'm participating in the public matching fund system, which makes it a lot easier. the lowest donation I can accept for matching is $10.
Okay.
So anything that anyone can give would be much appreciated. It goes
Donate.
to,
Fair enough.
getting staff, to getting campaign literature, to getting signs, and just keeping momentum going. Because
Yeah.
I'm very lucky. I've already received some endorsements for my campaign. I'm picking up steam. I'm out there every night just at the vigil, but that's not a campaign event. I feel very
Right.
strongly like we're out for a much bigger issue there.
Sure.
I am simply
doesn't-
just out in my community supporting as I feel strongly.
A lot of people don't even know she's running out there. Like,
No, yeah, I
they
didn't
don't even
know.
They didn't
When
even
she
care.
told me you were running, you know,
It's
I went
genuine.
up there
Yeah.
about 2 Sundays ago, and then she told me you were running, and I was like, "Who's running?" I'm like, "The same girl." She's like, "The same girl that was at the thing that does the flyers." I'm like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "No, she's running. You sure she's running?" All right. So I mean, like you haven't been, for lack of a better word, like braggadocious about it. You know what I'm saying? You're very like involved and engaged in what you're doing, and that makes it honest with me. You know what I'm saying? That keeps it straight because that's a no BS approach to it. That's how I
Sure.
feel about that.
you.
So I definitely, let me just get this right here. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So I definitely like appreciate conversating with it, and we definitely want you to come back because
you.
I
I'd
want to
love to
know.
come back.
I want to know how you progressed. You know what I'm saying? I want to know like how it's been working. What can we do to help? If anything, and I want to thank you for having me at the vigil the other day.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Yeah.
inviting me as well.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
I had a lot of
Right?
fun.
Don't forget about
Right,
yeah,
yeah,
right
I
there.
spoke
There
up there.
too.
I spoke up
We're
there as
waiting
well.
on your kids to come.
Okay, they'll be there shortly.
Look, it's about rock right now. Excuse me.
Okay,
Sorry.
listen,
It's about rock.
Stan.
Okay, I'm going to have it's your thing. It's your world. Your world.
No. They've been very, and then the good Reverend Doctor was up there also.
Oh, yeah.
Gregory, right?
Yeah, he's
Doctor-
there fixed poster every Saturday for
Yeah,
until
yeah,
further
he's-
notice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he's
was
speaking.
teasing me last night. He was like, "I'm gonna call in," and I was like, "Hold me accountable, Rev. Hold me accountable. I'm ready
Yeah.
for the hard questions."
Yeah.
Yeah, he texted me. He said how long, but we're about to get off. So
Yeah, because I definitely would have called him because listen. First of all, if we call him right now, we're on for another hour.
I know.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Rev,
Yeah, we're talking about you, Rev.
Yeah, we're on for another hour. You
Reverend
know what I'm
Gregory
saying?
Seal Livingston.
Yeah, and he's such a
Engaging, incredible storyteller.
talker
Amazing.
He's an orator, a natural orator.
that you would never. You don't even miss the hour.
Right.
It's mesmerizing.
No,
hour and a
It's like
half. It was about an hour and a half,
Yeah,
right?
mesmerized.
I really was
Incredible.
I was like, damn, somebody's finally on the show that talks more than me.
Yeah.
This is great. I
You
love
get that
it.
every now and then, right?
So I'm gonna put your website up again, right? And then we're gonna sign off and we're gonna ride out with that. And I'm gonna put the donate page up.
Okay.
I'm gonna do that. Put the
Thank you.
donate page up so you can see that.
And we can link it
Right
later.
out.
if it's
Yeah,
not
and then
linked.
like we'll apply the links and everything through
Yeah.
our One Night Your page, right? Because we have the One Night Your on Facebook,
Twitter.
where people in Twitter,
Instagram.
Instagram. Well, you got to understand, she is a social media Mongol. She's the one that handles that. So I don't know how that goes. I'm analog. I do
Yeah,
this.
whatever.
She does the digital. She does the digital. Right. I even called her today. I was like, should I change the background? Sound right? You think that's cool? She's like, yeah.
I was like, but what about Stan? You're like, oh, Stan's good with it. He'll be
Stan's
good
good.
with it. He'll be good with it.
Stan's cool. Don't worry
He'll
about
be
it.
good with it. Yeah, that's what he said.
Pretty much.
He
He be like me. And I appreciate that. No, I do appreciate that because I'm the only female, in this
this
crew. So I have a certain way I like things done, and I'm glad that they're respectful of it. So I love these guys. Like y'all, my family. Yo.
Absolutely.
Come on. And with that note, we're going to sign off.
We're gonna say some
anything
goodbyes
for next week?
Well, we have
Go.
next up. We have next week. We have Patrick Boblin, and he will be on our show. He's running for assemblyman. And what district is it again?
The 76th. The
76.
Wow,
Okay,
we're just
yeah.
becoming that
So
place
he's
to stop
coming
at,
out,
huh?
and he's one of the organizers from the Upper East Side Vigil.
Okay.
And I just would like to say thank you to Stan from last week. Let me borrow his T-shirt because I had
yes,
on.
yes.
I messed up and wore green, and I was like,
Yes.
"Shut up." And
Yeah, she disappeared.
I was so I had on, he was like, it's a little sweaty. I said, I don't care. And I had my little scarf. I threw it on, and I made it look cute. And I want to also just point out, I don't know if the camera's still on you, but these suspenders, man, you're doing it. Like,
rock-
do y'all
rock's the
see?
new
Do y'all
style.
see this? Do y'all see this? I mean, this is like that real level. Like this is. Ooh, wait a minute, I gotta check this. But this nice. He's been doing this lately, so I like this.
Yeah,
I like that look.
I'm trying to do my,
Yeah.
my what's it, Larry King.
Okay.
Right? Larry
Yeah.
King will do that.
Yeah, that's
you know
it.
what I'm saying? And Stan, anything you need to add to this?
I just want to say I'm happy to sit next to you and support your campaign. And for all those who are running for office, we're kind of building like a new slate. This is a new day. We got
Yeah.
new people in there with new ideas, and I think that could really transform the city. I'm excited to be a part of that, and I'm
Yeah.
encouraging others to do the same. We need more candidates who think this way, who will not take no money from real estate developers at all, and then the city will change. So
Yeah.
for all those folks listening, I encourage more people to run. We need
Yeah.
more people in this race.
All right, Rebecca, I'll give it to you. You're the last. Go.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate our conversation. I know I kept you a little loose, got a little crazy at times, but you know, that's me. That's me. I'm a pure, uncut, honest kind of person. So
I love that.
You know, I'm always ready to have an unfiltered talk. Thank you for having me.
All right, bet.
Awesome. Say your website one more time.
Yeah, please.
RebeccaLamorte.com, RebeccaLamorte.com, and any and all donations are appreciated. Thanks for being a part of the team and helping me keep things going.
I think she just gave me a new show. Unfiltered talk.
Okay.
Oh, Lord.
All right. We out.
Peace out. One
We
night.
out. Who calling in?
Oh, no, they gonna rap.
Are we still on?
Maybe.
Oh, no.
Give him a minute.
Give him a minute. Give him a minute. Gotta give him a minute.
We trying to get off the show and you calling in.
We got. We got to give him a quick
You wasn't
shot.
supposed to get the last word, Rev.
But he
But go
got
ahead.
it. He
The
did the
benediction.
Yo,
No.
Rev, calling, Rev.
We about-
He said, love that T-shirt.
Oh, okay.
I'm your
Okay.
Huckleberry Doc. He saw the T-shirt.
Okay.
I'm going to call him. I'm
Yeah,
going to
call
call
him.
him.
Just say a word for
Yeah,
me,
because he
then,
texted me, how long y'all going to be?
I got to call him.
This is something new.
Yeah.
This is definitely something different.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Doc
Rev.
Rock.
Hey, what's up, Rev?
Hey, Rev.
Rev in the house. What's going on, man? All right.
The good Reverend Doctor's in the house. How's it going?
I'm good, man. You swerved on me, brother, but it's cool. I'm your Huckleberry.
Come on. That's a classic movie right there. Come on.
Man, it's one of the best of all time. Man, that's Val Kilmer's greatest role.
Yeah, it
But
was.
you guys got the beast from the east up there, man.
Yes,
Lamort,
yes,
she's gonna
yes,
be dope.
yes, yes,
She's the real deal.
Yes,
yes,
indeed.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you,
she's
Rev.
The
Thank
beast
you.
from the east. Love it.
Good Reverend, good Reverend Doctor. When you coming back?
Man, whenever you have it, man. I had such a ball with you guys. I even got lost on my way going back home. I was so.
That was a good
I wonder
show.
why.
Man,
You said it was a Red Bull? Was it the Red
It
Bull?
was that Red Bull. That Red Bull will do it to
Raise
you.
up that
Yeah,
Taurine.
two of that.
That Red Bull will do it to you.
Taurus drink.
We'll do Red Bull and Monster next time, but we got something to talk about, man. I mean,
Okay.
look,
We got that. That's going to be a
you got-
2-hour show.
yeah, you got Kamala and Biden. You got
Oh.
everything
Yeah.
that's going around that, and this is going to be a
Okay.
rocky, turbulent time, but we the people, and we do got the power. you
All
know?
right.
Yes,
Amen.
Well, we're going to try to lock you in November.
All
Let's
right,
try
we
to do
gonna-
like
we gonna-
November,
yeah,
late
we gonna
October.
Bring you back.
yes.
Okay?
Oh, without a doubt, look forward to it.
All right, and
All
I'll
right.
talk to you
All
during the week, Rev.
You got to play that
All right,
music again.
and vote for Lamort. Vote Lamort.
Yes,
Oh,
I'm just right.
Thank you.
There you
All
go.
right.
I'm in support.
Later.
All right,
All right, see
all
you in a
right,
bit.
Bishop. Stand the man. You got it. All right, now.
All right, so now can we end the show?
Yeah, yeah,
Put that beat back on.
yeah, yeah.